Hi, I'm John.
Bonjour, je suis Michel Couper.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So I am the Vice President of Operations for Les Florets.
Excellent.
And you are?
I guess I'm John. I'm the restaurant operator at Les Florets.
Great.
I've operated the restaurant for 12 years. It's been a great source of income and identity for my family for a long time.
Yeah, we've been really happy with your success, and you're one of the best chefs that we have, and really grateful for your service and for your representing Les Florets over the last 12 years, and
Great.
I'm sure we're going to get into it and talk about what's been going on and why you're selling and
Sure.
perhaps the future. But just wanted to say thank you and looking forward to talking to you today.
Great, thanks. I really appreciate that. I mean, the job's an identity, and it's been well worth our time.
Yeah. So I guess let's get into it. So why what's changed? We've been having such a good partnership over the last decade. What's changed? Why are you selling?
Yeah, no. Again, it's been a great experience. Just discussing with my wife and I, we just for some personal reasons, we just need to take some time off from work. Period.
Okay.
So we're going to go on a brief hiatus. We're going to take some time away from working. We're not retiring, but we just need to take time away from work.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with Les Florets. We don't have any. There's no exogenous reasons. No issues with the law or anything like that. We just, for family reasons, we need to take some time.
Okay. And indefinite. You don't know how long you're going to be off for you to be traveling.
That's a good question. We'll be taking 2 years.
Okay.
2 years time. But with that said, the restaurant, it's in prime condition. As you said, it's been successful in the past. So we're not running from any ailments in our restaurant. So it sounds like in the past, Les Florets, your management company, you kind of licensed these restaurants, and now you're kind of moving towards operating them on your own.
Yeah, as a general trend, I think that's where we're headed. We think that's more profitable for us. But
Sure.
At the same time, we want to give back to to people that have helped grow this business, and if possible, keep you around or maybe bring you back after you figure out whatever you need to figure out, or just take time for you and your family.
Sure.
Which we understand. But are you staying in the area? Or are you traveling? What's the general plan?
So we hope not to. We won't be in the area, in all
Okay.
honesty. With that said, I know clearly we're looking to sell a restaurant. You're potentially looking to buy a restaurant. So there's clearly at a 10,000 foot level, we're trying to transact.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, despite stepping away from a restaurant, we can discuss the intricacies, but we want to ensure that the transition is smooth. Have you given thought to kind of a transition? If there's a current ownership group, and if there might be a new kind of manager, a new ownership group, I guess have you given thought to how that transition would occur?
To be perfectly honest, we were hoping that you might be willing to stick around, just because while we are hoping while we are moving towards a general change in our business plan of increasing ownership, we're looking to grow, and so I think I've identified that our interest is better served by retaining talented people, you being one of them.
Sure.
As far as this particular restaurant is concerned, if we can work out a deal, then we would take it over and run it as well as to the very high standard that we run all our restaurants.
Sure. Just to be honest with you, I won't be able to stay on at the restaurant currently.
Okay.
I'll be flexible with you. We can work out maybe some creative alternatives, but I just will not be able to stay on as manager in a current capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Again, down the road we can revisit this shortly, but just in the short term, I don't want to get your hopes up in that regard. I just want to be honest and straight with you in that capacity.
Sure. And then so are you said you're not staying in the area. Do you have family abroad? Are you changing countries, changing residencies, or?
We will not be. Again, it's kind of for personal reasons, but we won't be in the area for the short period of time.
Okay, but you've been. It seems like you've been pretty satisfied with our relationship and with your relationship with Les Florets. And
Sure.
okay, so cool.
And so have you acquired other restaurants in the recent past? So, again, like it sounds like you're kind of moving towards maybe management ownership of specific restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Have you acquired any restaurants maybe in the past 6 months or anything?
We're in the initial stages of doing that.
Okay.
I'm not at liberty to say exactly where we are in that, but I'd say we're at the beginning of a growth phase where we're looking to expand, definitely.
Gotcha. And so I was under the impression that you definitely have some institutional knowledge. I mean, you're trying to take over these restaurants because you can derive some profits and maybe you can find some efficiencies that work kind of a mom and pop operation. Do you have any forecasts about maybe like your anticipated profits per year? Or I guess you have. I mean, I don't know if you can disclose that, but do you have any kind of estimates as what you kind of are? Maybe a forecast.
Well, frankly, I don't have your numbers in front of me of what you have been making over the last few years, and I know. We are interested in purchasing your restaurant.
Gotcha.
But we do have alternatives if we can't come to an agreement.
Gotcha. As a principal negotiator, I presume you would have some alternatives. All right. I just want to make sure I've done all my due diligence and covered all my bases in terms of background.
Mm-hmm. And so, I guess long term, you see yourself as a chef. I know you're taking a hiatus, but if and when you do, return to work, you'll most likely be returning to the restaurant industry.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay.
We want to keep all options on the table. I wouldn't say yes or no to anything. I'm kind of an opportunistic fellow. But yeah. So and then just to establish the financial detail, Les Florets, like you're financially sound. You don't have like near-term financial pressure. Okay, so
we're in growth phase. We're well capitalized.
Gotcha. I'm listening. I'm not being rude. I just want to check and see if my associates have enough touch base.
Okay. And while we're on that subject, I know you've been vigorously marketing this restaurant. I don't want to get into your personal info, but I'm feeling like there's a certain pace with which you want to get this over and done
sure.
with. You have a great restaurant, so I assume you have other buyers and offers on the table.
Yeah, no, I would be misrepresenting material fact if I said we didn't have other suitors.
Okay.
But with that said, I think we want there's some cachet. Our restaurant's been around for 12 years. I think we want it to be in. Good hands to perpetuate the brand and the restaurant. And we have a built-in cachet with customers. So yeah, are looking to sell, but want to have the proper buyer. So we're trying to be prudent with our decision making.
Okay. I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other. We're happy for you. Thankful for your service. But just thinking, if a couple years down the line, if there was any interest on your part of coming back to Les Florets, that might take this discussion in another direction.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I was going to say obviously there may be some near-term pressure or near-term limitations, but yeah, long-term it sounds like you may be receptive. Maybe some potential employment opportunities down the road.
Yeah.
Even if there were to be a sale. So even if you were to acquire the restaurant, you may still be interested in taking on an experienced restaurateur.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. And again, that would serve you benefit from some experienced labor, and this experienced restaurateur would benefit from a job. So okay,
yeah,
that's good to know. All right. Well, it sounds like our interests are aligned in terms of the brand. This is your franchise line. We operate a specific franchise. I think that's a great marriage in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it's a sale. It has to come down to dollars and cents. We kind of have a dollar amount in mind we're aiming for.
Okay.
It's not pulled out of nowhere. We kind of have granular justification for that. Do you mind if I walk through that offer for you?
Go ahead.
So we kind of view the restaurant as having two components. It's kind of there's land, there's the plot of soil that the restaurant is built upon. And there's the restaurant itself, the building and kind of the equipment. Our understanding, kind of paging through trade journals, was that the land has about a market value of about 80,000 euros currently. And then, although we purchased the restaurant equipment 13 years ago, kind of the building and equipment, if you were to purchase that and erect that today, would be about 120 euros additionally.
Okay.
So our view coming into this is that the land plus the functioning restaurant is worth about 200,000 euros. The land based off of market data, and then the equipment based off of, I think, data I gleaned from, quote, trade journals. So that's kind of how.
And so, I mean, is you're talking about the brand, assuming a change in ownership, there's no guarantees that whoever were to replace you would be up to your level. So I think kind of de facto there would be a change in brand, right? I mean, the value that you've created through your name would no longer be there for a future owner.
I mean, you could argue that. You also could argue that the restaurant's underneath the Le Florets brand, right? And so by selling the restaurant to you, we've ensured that brand would stay, right? And so I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is a series of franchises, right? It's not just a one-off restaurant, right? So you're correct. Potentially there might be a new chef, but I think our approach is that there'd be kind of uniformity in terms of the branding, so the customers would still have, they would take solace in the fact that there'd be continuity in terms of the food and the suppliers and just like a general ethos to the business.
Yeah.
Maybe we can agree to disagree in that regard, but I value your point. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And then so, I mean, again, I don't have the numbers in front of me for your revenue streams, but I mean, and I don't know where you assessed within this $120,000, the value attached to your brand versus materials and building.
Sure. And in all honesty, I don't know if I have that granular detail in terms of that. So it sounds like a worry or a fear, not of yours, but maybe of your company's, is of the transition, just to ensure that the success that's currently being derived by the restaurant is carried on to potentially a new owner.
Mm-hmm.
We clearly have taken time off to spend time with family during kind of a trying time in our lives. With that said, we don't want to hamstring you. We want to make this an efficient transition.
Yeah.
Just being honest with you, we can't commit to a lot of time. But if I were to stay on for maybe a week or 2 weeks, would that potentially facilitate maybe kind of that transition? Now I could help train the new manager and train the new cooks, or maybe even we can just make sure I got a contract to ensure that the current staff stays on, so that the only change is just at the top level.
Well, I mean, again, so you're operating under the assumption that you would be selling it to someone else.
Correct.
And then in that case, we would need to approve whatever buyer would come in.
I mean, this hypothetical, you would be the buyer.
Okay.
You would be the buyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then in that case, why don't we talk about that maybe
in a couple minutes?
Sure. After we come to the agreement. So
sure. I'm listening.
We were thinking $100,000.
Okay.
Roughly half your value, or what you assess the value to be.
Do you mind telling me just a little bit, just kind of like the components that went into that valuation? If there was, other restaurants you're looking at that were similarly valued.
I mean, mostly it's just that we're in a growth phase and we're looking to acquire restaurants and we want to have resources for other restaurants. It is a profitable restaurant that that we value and that we want. But at the same time, as our contract stipulates, we're in a position of power, right? So I mean, we kind of control, and I completely understand your situation and that the personal situation that you're going through. But from a pure business perspective, that's what we assess the value to be at, and that's what we're hoping to acquire the business worth if you're committed to selling.
Yeah, and in all honesty, I think currently the restaurant generates about $40,000 in profit per year.
Mm-hmm.
So despite kind of the control of the license, there still is. If you look at the intrinsic value of the property, like the land, the equipment, that alone being sold, even just on its own, is worth more than $100,000.
Okay.
And then also just in terms of like those cash flows, the restaurant at $100,000 would pay for itself in 2.5 years. So I think that I appreciate and respect the interest you guys have provided in the restaurant, but that seems that's severely on the low end of what we're looking for, but also kind of what we've discussed with other individuals.
Okay.
And that's, again, you can take this with a grain of salt, but that's not posturing. Just being kind of honest about where we're coming in.
Okay.
So.
And I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but I mean this again, offer and negotiation could look significantly different if you were perhaps willing to come back. I mean, after you take time for yourself and your family.
Sure.
And depending on where you're going, I mean, we could talk. Setting you up with a new restaurant relocation packages.
Sure. No, that's a good. I mean, I appreciate you extending that. A worry of ours is, I'm not taking time to take time. I need to take time for my wife actually suffers from depression, and so I'm taking some time to allow her to heal, and to medicate. Yeah. When I return from my hiatus, I do want to work in some capacity. Okay. Am I wedded to working my current position? No, I'm flexible in that regard. Right. I know the restaurant business well, and I think there's some value out there. I definitely, upon return, would be receptive to. Okay. I mean, it sounds like. But
not. I mean, are you telling me you're not willing to talk about that at this negotiation?
I am willing to talk about that now.
You are?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So, do you mind telling me some more concrete details? I mean, or would you be looking for a restaurant manager, perhaps 2 years down the road, or a consultant, perhaps, in kind of the back office area?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm open to hearing your ideas too, but the two positions that I was entertaining was either chief talent officer, helping us within this growth phase that we're projecting,
okay.
Or maybe a leadership position in charge of training future chefs and managers.
Sure. Yeah, and I think both those capacities, I think I would have acute interest in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would have acute interest in both those positions. It speaks to the strengths that I have in my background. I don't want to overextend here, but do you have, due to my wife's condition, she's not going to be equipped to work in a restaurant, physically in the restaurant going forward. Mm-hmm. Both those positions are something that I would be amenable to. Do you have any kind of maybe more office positions that maybe my wife could potentially, work in or assist you with?
Yeah, I don't. Off the top of my head, I might be able to work something out.
You may have the capacity to accommodate her with a role. Okay, gotcha.
And specifically while your wife's going through this tough time, I have a summer home. It's pretty nice. Not far from here.
Sure.
On the water, on the Kalank. It's very nice, and it's, maybe some time by the sea would help your wife.
I really appreciate that. It's she obviously means a lot to me. So that I appreciate that offer. That's the empathy is well received. So I feel like we may have something here. I feel like we both are motivated in the sense that our interests may be aligned. Dollars and cents may not be, but I think we're getting closer. Mm-hmm. Again, I respect that value. I respect that you putting forth a dollar value in response to my initial offer. Again, that's lower than we can go with, but I think if we were to build in this kind of employment component, perhaps we might be able to, you may be able to raise your number, I might be able to lower mine a little bit.
Okay.
If we were to come down maybe to about $170,000 for the purchase price upfront, just in cash, or however you want to structure it, for the actual restaurant, with maybe tying in after 2 years with an employment contract.
And that's the period of time that you've allotted that you absolutely need is 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So 170 is still above our price range.
Okay, all right.
Getting there, but definitely still more than we're able to pay. So give me a second.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
If
So let me put it this way. So right now I think we were just at, I counted with about 170,
right,
and potentially employment after 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I obviously that would be contracted in explicitly,
right.
But I'd also be willing to sign maybe a non-compete clause for that 2-year period. Obviously I'd be going and spending time with my wife. But things could happen. I could be approached by another restaurant.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to make that offer firm to you.
Yeah. So you said you were making 40,000. The restaurant, or you were making 40,000 per year?
I think my income was 40,000 per year. Yeah. Would that be a salary that you could afford?
In a couple years down the line.
A couple years down the line, yeah.
Yeah. I think, or perhaps even a raise.
Okay.
For a guarantee, of you coming to work with us. The details obviously still need to be worked out. But if I were to, guarantee you, a salary of, 55,000 per year, on your return, in a higher position, opportunities for growth, would you be willing to? I'm prepared to do that. Would you be willing to come down lower on the sale price for the restaurant?
Yeah, I'd be willing to come down from the 170. Yeah, I'd be willing to come down from 170.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there a specific dollar amount that you'd be more comfortable with than the 170?
How about 120?
120. Hold on a second. I gotta do a little math.
Sure.
I'm just a restaurateur. I make food. I don't deal with these numbers on a daily basis.
You make great food and run a successful restaurant. That's why we want to keep you around.
Hold on 1 second. I just need to confer with what my accountant provided me. That's a really generous offer, and I really do appreciate that. I think I would need. Hold on a second. So 55 is a very generous offer. I think 120 would be a little too, we definitely have cash flow needs in the near term. And so I think would you be willing to structure it? I'd be willing to take a salary decrease in those future years to increase the near-term price.
Okay.
So I think so. So your offer was 120 total upfront,
yeah.
55. So hypothetically, in your first year, that would be a total, adding those two together, would be 175. Would you be willing to maybe increase your initial payment price for the restaurant to 140 in return for a salary of 40,000 euros? So we'd go from total compensation of 175 to 180. So it'd be an increase from your offer by 5,000. You'd be paying a little more upfront, but you'd be paying less going forward.
Okay.
I'm a simple man with simple needs. I run a restaurant, which is not the most lucrative thing in the world. So, I don't need to be enticed with a lot of money down the road. But I definitely just want to get appropriate value, though, for my restaurant.
Sure. I know you have an appointment later. How much?
Oh, sure. My upcoming. That's a great question. I just got to see what I have about 4 minutes until my next appointment.
Okay. Cool. We're close. I'm confident, that we're gonna work something out and both and come to a deal we're both happy with. And I'm just thinking about how we can expand that pie and make it better for both you and me together.
So I think I just offered. I think it was 140.
With the starting salary of $40,000 2 years down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I'd be willing to sign like a non-compete clause for the 2 years, just in the off chance anything arises.
Sure.
I'm committed to working with Le Flore going forward. Those numbers are pretty close to what we're capable of doing.
And would you be interested in moving to the new job, or would you prefer to stay in around Marseille?
No, honestly, we're flexible in that regard. If you want us to stay, we can stay, but we're taking these 2 years to reevaluate some of our priorities, so we'd be willing to move if that is amenable to you guys.
Okay.
It sounded like just really quickly, it sounded like an issue for you was the transition. So for the 2 year period, you have new management of this restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd be willing to kind of stick to those dollar amounts I mentioned, I'd be willing to stay on once the sale occurred for maybe a brief period of time. I can't cut into that 2 years too aggressively, but I'd be willing to not donate, but stay on and make sure that transition is smooth for you guys. So if there's any issues with the supply, I know you're a supplier, but we have other ancillary suppliers or training. If I stayed on for 3 weeks, would that be be amenable to you guys?
To be honest, I think we have staffing someone is putting someone in your position is not an immediate concern for us, but I would gladly accept your offer of staying on to ease that transition.
Okay.
And so in response to the one sale price of 140, and then a $40,000 salary for you, say hypothetically we were to move you to Paris. Get an office job for your wife.
Sure.
20,000, 25,000 euros a year.
Yeah.
But then we keep the sale price at 120.
120. So that's then our first year back. It would be 120, and then 65. That is. Let me just check my accountant. That's really, really tough for us. I think, again, I appreciate the offer, but I think that 140 is about as low as we can go on the purchase price. Again, I think my wife would be willing to take less. We don't even have to enter into the equation, but if we were to involve her, we both would be willing to take less future salary to kind of keep that initial sale price at 140.
Okay. All right. So do you want to? Would you be willing to accept a salary of $30,000? For what will be a much less stressful job in the future. I know chefs can sometimes go a little bit crazy on.
Sure, and then maybe like $30,000 for my wife as well, maybe in an office job. No, sorry, my math is off. 20,000 for my wife in an office job.
That'll be fine.
Sorry. So purchase price of 140, and then 30,000 for a job at your restaurant, 20,000 for my wife.
And the non-compete.
Plus a non-compete clause.
And 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay, 3 weeks of staying on.
And why don't you guys stay the weekend? Maybe a couple weekends at my chateau.
Sure.
Sometime.
I think that could work for us.
Great.
A little to shake on if you'd like to confirm. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.